Started. That's right, brother.
Yes, go for it.
Hillary, we're ready when you are. She already left. Good evening, everyone. Call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Newmarket School Board to order, April 15th, 2022, 7 p.m. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Also, if the board will allow it, I'd like to amend the agenda slightly. Under discussion items, I'd like to add a number 2 to discuss the process for filling a board vacancy, if we can. And then I also have a brief comment I'd like to make before we go to public comment. One, I want to apologize for confusion around the agenda. It got kind of screwed up, and the public comment wasn't included there initially. Sorry about that. I also apologize for having a meeting on a Friday evening at 7 o'clock. I know this is not where people want to be, but unfortunately there's some decisions that need to be made very soon. And lastly, I just wanted to let the board know that I did personally violate a school board policy and contacted some administrative folks directly and shouldn't have. So I believe in following policies, but I believe in transparency and honesty and admitting mistakes, and I made a mistake. So I was a little overwhelmed this week, and I did it. Shouldn't have, but I did it. So, all right. Other than that, let's. Also, Dr. Givens and Assistant Superintendent Black could not be here because of previous engagements. So, since we didn't have their expertise here, we asked for council to be here to provide any assistance should we need it. So, I think that is it. We will open the floor for public comments at 7:02.
Good evening. I'm Ann Ellis. I live at 8 Wigan Drive in Newmarket. I've been a resident of Newmarket for 21 years. I have 2 children that attend the Newmarket schools. One will be the class of 2025 and one class of 2028. They both have had wonderful experiences in this school district. I think it's important to note, have been a public school administrator for 17 years. And I have participated, although not a public school administrator here in Newmarket, I've participated in many things over the course of my 21 years here with the Newmarket schools, including several search committees for previous administrators. Most recently, I was on the search committee that selected Mr. Dalton to be the principal of the junior senior high school. I also served as a member of the building committee, which brought the beautifully renovated schools that are nearby here to us, something that I'm very proud of this community for bringing forward. But it's my lens of an experience as a public school administrator and principal that I felt compelled when I saw the agenda items to come forward and speak about tonight. The community of public school administrators is a very tight-knit one. You don't have to look far down anybody's resume in this area to sort of see what they have traveled and what their degrees of separation are from any other public school administrator. But there are several things that I think are important to bring forward tonight that I'm sure that the administrators who are resigning because they are professional people cannot say. And so having not spoken to them, again, because they're professionals and not knowing the details of what's brought us to this place, felt it was important to voice. When you become an administrator, you're advised I was advised, and I did my degree with Mr. Pine, so he heard the same information, I'm sure, and we're not alone in that. That you should have a certain amount of money, if you can, reserved in case you need to resign from a job. And the reason why that's so important for administrators to know and to be able to do is because so much of what you deal with as an administrator is confidential. And sometimes the only way you have to stand up for something that you're being asked to do, that is morally, ethically wrong or out of your compass in terms of what's right for our community and your position, is to resign. It's my firm belief that that is the position that the people who are resigning tonight are in. And that whatever has happened, that these are extremely dedicated people, and I cannot believe that they are leaving for any other reason than that's the only action they can take to stand up for themselves in their position. Also, in administration, you sort of know that if you're doing your job well, that by the nature of the job, somebody is always mad at you. If you discipline a student and that causes them to have to miss the championship baseball game, then the community's mad at you and the parents are mad at you, instead of the student who made the decision. If a parent comes in with a complaint against a teacher and you find that complaint to be valid, and you have to address that with the teacher, then the teacher is mad at you for not supporting. If you bring forward new positions or ask the community for more tax dollars in order to be able to do what you feel is best for the school and the students, then potentially members of the community are mad at you for the expense out of their wallet. But all of those types of decisions, which administrators make every single day, they do because they believe it's what in the best interest of the students. And they have to make hard decisions, which then they are unable to defend publicly, because all of those things and situations that they come across every day are confidential. And by the nature of them, they cannot speak about what it is. Also, when you're a new administrator in a building or a district, it takes at least a year to understand a school and district, how a school and district functions. And you hope when you're a new administrator that there are people in a district, that there are people there who have the history of the district, who can serve to help be your historian, so to speak, as you learn that district or job or role. But it still takes at least a year just to understand what it is you're dealing with and to become part of the community. I firmly believe that the lack of continuity in Newmarket's administration is the biggest problem facing this district and town. It is April 15th, and you have the impossible task for you, if we're to understand with your agenda, at hiring 4 top administrators in this district. With all due respect, you are a young school board, an inexperienced school board. And as a 17-year administrator that's been a part of so many hiring seasons at administrators at all level, including in this district, I can't imagine how you hire 4 after April 15th. I strongly urge you as school board members to do whatever is needed to recognize the incredible loss you have with these 4 administrators, and to do whatever it takes to recognize their concerns and to find a way to not lose them. These are incredibly dedicated administrators, and I know that I have limited time, but I will just speak about my personal experience with Shayna Thorell, who's been an advocate for so many kids in this district. My son had her as a 5th grade teacher, and he had a terrible 4th grade year, and we were considering whether or not it was right to continue to send him here. Shayna Thorell was exactly what he needed. Again, when he came to the junior, senior high school, and we had some concerns about his learning, Shayna Thorell was his advocate. And I know she's done that for countless other people. I can't speak from personal experience about the rest of them, except for that I just can't imagine this district moving forward with this loss. And that somehow you as a school board need to figure out how to move forward and to answer to the community and to the absolute harm I believe it's going to cause our school district if we have to replace all 4 of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? All right, at 7:10, close public comment. So the reason I asked for us to have a meeting tonight is because I realized, given the date, that we need to make some decisions very, very quickly, and it's something that we couldn't wait until next Thursday to do. So some of the, we need to basically decide how to proceed as far as, well, obviously replacing superintendent. There are some options available to us. We can obviously start a new superintendent search process. We do that through NEASC. There's several organizations that'll help us find an interim superintendent, should we be interested in doing that, including, I believe, the New Hampshire Superintendents Association. We can contact the New Hampshire School Board. We can contact Municipal Resources, Inc. And then the other thing we could do, and please, if you have others, let me know. The other thing we can do is ask Dr. Gibbons to reach out to neighboring communities to see if they have anyone who could serve in an interim capacity. So really the main reason for us to come here tonight is to decide what we want Dr. Gibbons to look into and to provide us more details about, I think, next Thursday. But I couldn't tell her or ask her to look into anything without first speaking with the board to see what we'd be interested in trying to do. Personally, I think given the deficit of superintendents, how late it is in the year, that trying to find an interim would make the most sense, but it's really up to the board. And if he's any other ideas of what we could do, please let me know.
I'm not sure how appropriate would be to ask Dr. Gibbons to look at 2 other districts. She's obviously got a lot on her plate. I'd really like to see her stay focused on where we're going with this year, what's happening with math, working on the accreditation with her team. So I would say we would leave her out of that recommendation. I mean, certainly if she
Yeah, I mean, certainly a member of the
offers,
board could do it. I just don't want to circumvent her
yeah.
if that's not the appropriate
I wouldn't want to
process.
see us request or require her to
Sure.
do that type of additional work.
Yeah, we can definitely check with her and see if it's appropriate for us to do it directly. And
Okay.
Well, I don't think we can require it, but we can request it at least and see what she says. If not, I think interim is our best way to go forward with it, because I would rather hire someone that we know will have a little more longevity in the district rather than just hire someone to hire someone. We need to really take our, I know we don't have a lot of time, but at this point in the game, I think interim is the best. That's how I feel.
So I concur. I think that we need to have an interim so that we can pause, catch our breath. This is a massive blow we've just taken.
Absolutely.
And I think the worst thing we can do in this situation is jump to react on April 15th, as the speaker said, and just like hire, just like that. That would feel reactionary, where I think we need to just pause, take a breath, have someone pull someone in. I think going to another organization, maybe a local community. I think organizations like the ones you mentioned will have sort of seasoned superintendents that can stay the course for a year while we get a community effort to hire the next superintendent. I think we really need to think very broadly about like what is the approach we want to take. Like it's I just want to agree with Heather too. I don't think we should be asking the superintendent right now to take on additional work. I think it's on the board. We're going to have to do the work of contacting one of the organizations.
Yeah, I just, out of etiquette, I'll just make sure I let her know that that's what we're going to be doing, and see if she has any contrary opinions or thoughts about us handling it. And then certainly, unfortunately, past school board have gone through this very recently. We could also reach out to one of a past school board member who might be willing to help give some thoughts and as to processes.
Yeah, be a good resource.
Andrew, you okay with that?
I absolutely
Course of action. Okay, great. So that was the main reason we needed to meet, unfortunately. Second, obviously, we're going to have a board vacancy again, unfortunately.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know this is on the list, but the assistant superintendent position.
Sure. Oh, thank you very much.
No, absolutely. I was wondering if this is the time to talk about that process, or if we should wait a
No.
week to see what happens to the superintendent thing first, and then, because they might be able to, these organizations might be able to help us.
No, I'm glad you brought that up.
to see first.
I actually meant to mention, Dr. Gibbons asked me the other evening if she should start advertising for that. I didn't really know, so she said she was going to start advertising, but obviously that's something the board should decide
Yeah, we
too.
sit down with some of these organizations. I wonder if they have a package, a 2-for-1, that a system, a team that
Buy one, get
will,
one sorta.
right, who will
Yeah.
come in, evaluate, and work together to kind of get us where we need to go short term.
And hiring takes time. That's going to take more time off of Dr. Gibbons' plate that, again, is limited, right? There's a clock ticking. Like, I don't think we want to add that. That's a massive amount of work.
Yeah, I'm extremely concerned about the continuity of leadership, and if we can get an interim person in there to start working with them and transitioning, and maybe some of the staff would be willing to even extend time before they. One person didn't renew their contract. I think 2 of them technically are non-renewal. So maybe they'd be willing to extend in a part-time capacity or something to help out. I wouldn't be surprised.
One thought with the assistant superintendent is, depending on what the job description is and what we need, if you say title it as a curriculum coordinator, the licensure requirements are different in New Hampshire, which may create a bigger net. And really, for me right now, I think the most important thing is to make sure that we carry on with the math program, the UBD, and the other things going on. Because we've spent a lot of money on that, as well as that's what our recertification is going to be hinged on.
Yeah, I think we've learned from past transitions that any initiatives that have started, we need to support and continue to push forward. We can't keep flip-flopping from different initiatives because of a new superintendent. We should all be like, the math program is fantastic. I know a lot of work's been done, for the accreditation or the curriculum. So
We might get lucky if we get an interim superintendent and get a curriculum coordinator that's eager. They might want to move up.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. They try it on as interim, and then
yeah. So I will. I'll start working on that stuff immediately. I may wait till tomorrow, but I'll definitely start working.
I wonder if we could have some of these organizations talk to the board, come and talk
Sure,
to the board. At a
absolutely.
meeting.
That's a great idea.
And one option too is, I do know, I've talked to a lot of people this week that are active in this, so if they're not willing to work, I could always talk to them too. I want to go the proper channels. I do not want it to look like that I'm guiding it in any
Sure,
way, because I think it's the last thing that the community needs, and I would be above my head. So
To Jan about this, we probably would have to put out an RFP, right? And this is a proposal.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So to open, there's multiple, like you mentioned, there's multiple organizations. Some of them might want to vie for it, some not. And
Yeah.
it's a contract, right? So we have to use the contracting process.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The-
Thank you. Yeah, please.
I won't chime in unless you need me. A
If,
couple
we
of
need
thoughts.
you now.
if there's some expertise you can provide, please.
Well, a couple of thoughts. Just are, number one, if you're going to delegate something to a board member, I would suggest that there be a formal motion to do that, so
Okay.
it's absolutely clear what the board member's
Great point.
authority is, because when you turn to an administrator, that's their job. When you turn to a board member, no one board member speaks for the board or can act for the board unless they're delegated that authority to do so
Great.
on behalf of the board. So that's one. Number two, certainly in the, to respond quickly, you've got there's a menu, if you will, and you've already mentioned some of the central ones. And then to contact. If you go to an RFP process, you're going to delay the process. If people are competing to try and help you hire a just bring them in and interview them and talk to them about what their services are. Get a list of their services, and you don't have to go through a formal RFP and debate it and approve it and all of that.
Is that,
I mean, certainly that would be for the interim anyway, and then maybe later on a long-term search, if that's the way you choose to go, that might be something that's worthwhile.
my only concern is that consistent with our district policy?
To check on that.
You guys can decide what your district policy
Okay,
is.
we can suspend policy.
You know, because you can, you know, you're the ones who establish the policy, you can change the policy.
Well, we can only
or
waive it
make an
without-
exception to it,
Yeah,
you know,
we'd have
and
to
say,
waive it.
whatever you do,
Yeah.
if you have a policy, if there is a policy like that, over a certain,
There-
over
there-
a certain
There's a
dollar amount.
dollar limit, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
$10,000.
You can waive that. You're talking about hiring professional services. You can waive that for that purpose, and everyone knows who the central search people are in New Hampshire. There are, as you know, I think it's up to 15 to 20 vacancies in superintendent positions in the state of New Hampshire right now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a real problem.
it's a crisis.
The last couple of years have not been easy on our profession, to say the least. So it's a tall order. But, so those are a couple things. One, you know, when you decide how you want to, if you're going to delegate it to you, and the superintendent will be able to give you some suggestions as well, even if they're not tasked with doing it because you're worried about her having too much on her plate. I'm sure she would be able to provide information to you about searches and options that are available through her contacts with other colleagues and other districts that are going through the search process right now. All right?
Great, thank you so much. I apologize, I was trying to find the policy number, so we could reference it, but I guess we can waive it in context without the
Well,
actual number.
you can contact them now, and then if you decide you need to get a quote from them or a proposal
That's
from
true.
them,
That's great.
you can do that at any time. But in terms of
Yeah.
writing up a formal RFP and doing that, you know, they'll quote to you what their services are and what their costs will be, and all of them will do that. You know, so they'll all have that information available for you, and you can then evaluate both cost and the service that they provide, you know.
So that brings up a great point. I'm sure there's someone better suited to do this work than I am, so if anyone willing to do it or have the time, I know we're all.
Can you just tell me again the organizations you mentioned? I know I wrote down
Well,
NEASC.
so there's the New Hampshire School Board Association, there's the New Hampshire Association of Superintendents, there's Municipal Resources, Inc., there is neighboring districts. I feel like I missed one.
My inclination is to go through one of the professional organizations. We go to a neighboring district, they're gonna give us a high potential, but hasn't been in the role person. I feel like what we need is the steady hand of someone who's been a superintendent, assistant superintendent for a while, to hold the organization for.
I think we have to reach broadly to see what we get in return, right? Because we may contact an organization's been around and get nothing, and then we've spent 2 weeks and put ourselves further. So I don't think it hurts to reach out if you are comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm
We
assuming we
can.
could draft a standard letter and reach out to 2 top recruiting agents for the state of New Hampshire. And I'm sure that Susan and Deb Black would have that contact info.
Does someone want to make I'm willing to do it unless someone else wants to. We just need a motion, obviously.
Well, I guess what I'm confused about, are we gonna individually contact all these places, or
I think a
just
member,
like draft a letter, like?
yeah, I think
Heather said,
a
and we
person of
can-
whoever the board selects would reach out to all these people to say the situation we're in. We're interested in trying to find out what's available for services.
That's what you're
Particularly
looking for. You're looking
Okay.
for services right
Services.
now for helping you find, and you need to define it, superintendent and assistant superintendent,
Okay.
Yeah.
both interim and long-term, and get their advice.
I don't mind doing it, but I know I'm gonna need some help with it, probably at first. Like, we're gonna have to draft a letter, you know, it's gonna take.
I'd be inclined that we actually pick up phones and call. I feel very like the pressure, the weight of time against us.
Okay.
This is gonna
Yeah, that's fine, I'd rather do that than.
I mean, the board could have two of us do it, as long as it's not a quorum.
Well, I would envision what would happen would be you'd get the material back, you'd all take a look at it, and then you'd set up interviews with the people that you want to talk to, and have a time when you could sit down and discuss in public, in front of the public, what their services are, and how, and you know, select the firm that you'd really like to have come in, maybe have a couple of them come in, and talk, and then have a meeting with the people and say that, then vote to decide who you're going to select,
Okay.
right?
Anyone want to make a motion to?
Amy, can I ask real quick, do you want to do it, or do you?
Well, I don't mind doing it.
Okay.
You know, but I may need some advice initially, so I just don't, I'm gonna have to ask questions probably at some point, but.
Well, that motion ought to also give her the authorization, because sounds like you have a policy not to talk with administrators, to talk with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for assistance on who to speak to, right?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously speak with the superintendent, but yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
certainly the assistant superintendent makes sense to waive that.
I wonder if there's, with these organizations, if there's something about the chair being the one that's making the call that provides a sense of like gravitas to it. No offense, Amy, I'm not
Oh,
sure.
no,
Like,
Yeah, because I
I'm not
exude
taking any
gravitas,
offense.
absolutely.
Yeah, like, I feel like
I get that a
that's-
lot,
I'm
yeah.
taking any offense if it's off my back.
I'm fine doing it, yeah.
You, are you sure?
Yeah.
these are just like initial reach
Yeah.
outs that
It's
like
not, yeah,
should-
it shouldn't be,
Because I know
that's all right,
you have a lot,
that's all right.
it's all right with me.
All right.
Can I ask real quick here? Are you guys comfortable if, and I'm not saying by any means that I know anything more than anyone else, but I know people in the profession.
Now you're hired.
Are you guys comfortable if Gary comes to me and asks questions that I can then reach out to those people? By no means though would I make a decision or push anything forward. But
So solicit advice from colleagues.
yes. Are we comfortable with that? You could say no.
I don't know if you need a motion for that.
I feel
Okay.
I feel like we should be able to engage with each other as colleagues to like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? As long as it's not like a de facto meeting by asking
Right.
every single person
Mhm.
one off, and then that becomes a meeting without a meeting.
If you do that with one person, I'd be comfortable with that. If you do that too, I wouldn't personally be comfortable with it,
Yeah.
just because it's,
I'm
to me, it'd be way too close to.
to reach out to someone who's
Yeah.
inside the profession. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be like, oh, you're doing something under the
Yeah.
table. Especially since we know about it, right? Like it's out in the air.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's fine
What,
with me.
what are we talking about?
So he's an educator
I know.
down,
Yeah.
and he has a great, someone's daughter he works with is fantastic,
Yes,
apparently.
absolutely.
And he obviously knows some superintendents and principals.
Sure.
And I think what he's saying is he could reach out to them to get advice on other organizations. or-
Anybody can do that. You're board
Yeah.
members. You can do that as long as you're not making representations that you're committing something on behalf of the Newmarket School District. That's why you're on the board,
Yeah.
to bring your expertise and your involvement. You can reach out to the public and to any resources that you know and bring them back to the board, as long as you all understand that as an individual board member, you make no decisions for the board.
Right.
The only people that make the decisions for the board are all of you when you're gathered together. You don't make the decision unless there's a delegation specifically by the board to a person to take action on your behalf. So that's the only point I was making. You have absolute right
Yeah.
to bring back and talk to anybody you want to, and bring back all that information and evidence and thoughts that you have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
discuss them.
And to be
before
clear,
the
the
board.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
done.
The only reason I said is I know that on the past the board's been accused of doing things privately, and I just want to make sure that I would want to do that, and that want to make sure that.
your Rolodex.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'd seek a motion to authorize the chair, Gary Swanson, to contact local, or not local, but agencies and organizations that can assist in finding interim superintendent, assistant superintendent,
So-
and perhaps permanent superintendents.
And to work with the superintendent to help, and the assistant superintendent to help refine that process.
I was gonna do that separately, but yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, we can extend the motion to include that.
You might want to get him a microphone since you don't have a recording.
He actually has one.
Right.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Phil, second by Amy.
Can I just make sure, so you said an interim superintendent and maybe ultimately a superintendent, and it's not part of the motion though, right? Like, right now, we are primarily focused on
Yeah, I
the
mean, I think
interim
we're-
superintendent,
yeah.
and then we can talk as a community about, like, the approach to the full.
Yeah, I think if any company that would come in would probably talk to us about what the various options are from interim to a full superintendent, how
Yeah.
likely it is to find one. Yeah, I personally, I'd be inclined to go with interim, but yeah, I don't think we're making any
Yeah,
decisions right now as to what path we would choose. It's just to contact companies. So we have a motion on the table, second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. Which was an action item. I apologize. We took that out of order. So the next item on the agenda we added was agenda item number 2, discussion of how to fill a board vacancy. Per board policy BBBC, the board should solicit members of the public who would be interested in taking the remainder of the resigning school board member's term up until the next election, at which point there would be an election to replace them for the remainder of their term from the. So just put it out, members of the public will accept emails with interests for the open position on the board, which will conclude at the next election in 2023. If you're interested, please email the chair, myself, with your interest. All right, the first action item is to accept the resignations, the administrative staff resignations. We need a motion, or I seek a motion, I guess, to accept the nomination, the resignations.
Do we want to list them or just?
Yeah, certainly we can. So we have Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Susan Gibbons, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Deborah Black, and Shana Thorell, Junior Senior High School Assistant Principal.
So moved.
Second.
So we have motion by Tilton, second by Phil Nazaro. Is there any discussion?
This might be outside of this, but I feel like exit interviews are going to be incredibly important. I realize, I'm assuming when you said you talked to administrators, these might be people you talk to. I don't know who you talk to. But I know that usually Susan has handled all the exit interviews. Like, I feel like we need to hear more, especially as we're looking at approach to pulling back and saying, okay, how are we going to approach recruiting for the future superintendent and assistant superintendent? It feels very important to get that insight.
So would you mind holding that just for a second
Yep.
until we finish the?
Yep. Yeah, I just didn't know if it was.
Yeah, the motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. No, I think you're right. I think some sort of exit interview process needs to happen. Currently, if I recall, it's done by Dr. Gibbons,
It's not a
who is
formal process.
also no, it's fine. Who's also the HR person, which seems like something we may want to discuss to have,
I
some
don't think
different.
there's a formal process of exit interviews. I asked that before when I was on the board, and
It's an oral
yeah, it's
exit
an
interview, as
oral
far as I know.
exit
Yeah.
interview, and
Which is
I
fine.
don't
but-
know, because how do we get that feedback? Like, I feel like that feedback is lost between us and the superintendent.
On through
Like,
different
why
boards, absolutely. yeah.
people are leaving, and I just would always like to know, so things that can be worked on, but I I don't know if we're entitled to that information.
I think in aggregate we are, but like I think right now,
So
outside of like the regular time, this is an
Yeah.
abnormal situation
It is.
that I think
totally
requires,
agree, yeah.
like again, as
just
the
a-
public comment mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Like there's reasons behind this that I'm not even entirely clear to.
So
That, like,
I'm concerned we're just straying a little bit from what's
Sorry.
exactly on the agenda. No, not at all. I think it's an important conversation.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
He likes his rules.
I try to. I obviously screw up at times. I'm just. We can amend the agenda to discuss the X interview process. It is related to obviously one agenda item. So if the board's comfortable with it, I just wanted to put out there that we're not
can we
following.
put that on a future agenda then?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is maybe we add it for the
Fine,
the
fine.
22nd agenda to discuss
Sure.
the exit interview process, and
And,
That's
and-
okay.
and you're talking about the exit interview process for these
These
administrators.
resignations, yes.
These resignations.
Not the general one, that's
Not
right.
general ones, because,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
typically boards aren't involved in exit
Yeah.
interviews.
Okay,
with
that's what I
staff,
didn't know.
You know,
Well,
Mhm.
and we should be
And
very
you- and
clear
you may-
about whether it includes the assistant principal, because now we're starting to dip.
yeah, you
Yeah.
are.
So,
But I would say, like, with the two senior administrators of SAU, I feel like that is, we need to understand more of the why. That's gonna help inform,
yeah, and again, we can talk about it. We may even want to do maybe the principal level, but yeah, we do need to, hiring and firing is clearly the superintendent's purview, so. All right, but I'll add that to agenda. As well as check if we have any policies or related to it. I don't believe we do, but I can check. And the last action item we have is, unfortunately, to accept the resignation of Heather Durant. Heather, did you have an effective date you would like to put that under
Yeah, I'll
or as?
talk with you about that. I anticipate my last date of service will be the 22nd of April.
Okay. I understand you may be away, so if you need to do it remotely, I think that can be,
Okay,
I think that would be fine with the board.
okay, great. I appreciate the
No, I
flexibility.
appreciate you sticking around until then. So I seek a motion to accept the resignation of Heather Durant effective April, after the April 22nd meeting.
I'll make the motion.
So we,
Second.
motion from Andrew, second from, I put Heather from Amy. I assume you need to abstain from voting.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick something.
Yeah.
To the citizens of Newmarket, it is with sadness that I announce my resignation from the school board. I've recently been given a professional opportunity, and it's one that I'm very excited about. So for that reason, I must resign. To our administration, Dr. Gibbons, Deb Black, Erica McNeil, Jana Mellon, Patty Banfield, Dave Dalton, Sean Pine, you are some of the most professional and dedicated leaders that I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and I wish each of you success. To my family and friends who stood by my side, even when it was tough, you are the roots and branches of my life, and you are on my tree. What a privilege it has been to be entrusted by the voters, to serve with this board, and to work for our entire student body. I thank you all, and I turn it over.
Thank you for your service. If you'd like to quit your job and stay on, we're certainly glad to keep you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It's been wonderful sitting with you all.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
All right, we do have an option for a non-public meeting if anyone, member of the board has a reason to go into it. I don't have any, but I wanted to have it on the agenda in case we decided to. All right, in that case, our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on, April 21st. That was on the 22nd.
21st.
Is it 21st?
Mm.
Thursday?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
22nd does work, okay.
Yep.
Great, all right, with that, I seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Yeah, it is the 21st.
Bill, and Amy, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. Have a good
Thank you.
evening, good weekend.